Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to the Beyond Sunday podcast. We are here with a great group this week, minus me. My name's Tate Wells.
That's not true, Tate.
I don't like being on here. I when I started making the schedule, I schedule out in advance, or at least I try to. And when I started making the schedule, I was like, yeah, just any week that Michael or Josh has to be out, I'll just cover for them. And then a week rolls around where one of them's out, and I'm like, that was such a bad idea. I don't want to.
No, man.
I think you do great. Yeah.
You do great, Tate.
Well, thank y'all. But the voices that you're hearing today are our entire student team, minus Miss Kim. Sorry, Kim.
That is true.
But
Kim.
we need to get Kim on
We
this
do
thing.
need to get Kim
Bro,
on.
she would be so funny.
We are one away from the dream team.
Y'all,
Does she listen?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, I guess we'll find out this episode. We've got Michael Shearon, our student pastor, right here to my right. And across from him, we've got Evan Ryan, our middle school pastor, and then our student resident, Hannah Buttram, right across from me. So excited to have y'all on today, especially you,
be
Hannah.
here.
Don't get to have you on very often.
I know, that's what I'm saying. You need to do better
great.
on that.
Yeah, you didn't even know that we had these lights up in here now.
Yeah, I know, because it's been probably like 3 months. Just kidding. I don't know how long
Doesn't
it's
it feel
actually
so
been.
much better in here?
Yeah, it's actually kind of romantic, and I don't like
Oh.
it. So they
Dude.
do this for young adult Bible study, and I just really do not like it.
Hannah, anytime she walks into the young adult Bible study, no one else complains about this, but anytime Hannah walks in, she's like, I can't see anything.
I can't.
It's so dark.
I mean, I can see, but like, I just feel so intimate. Like, please turn on the fluorescent lights. This is not. You guys need to get a room for this.
I love it.
This is probably.
Y'all pray for us. It is not romantically lit in here.
Sorry.
No,
Let me
it's
just,
really-
there's
I
no
didn't
picture.
mean it- I
It's
didn't mean it
literally,
like that.
Hannah, you've said enough.
Okay.
It's literally just a dimly lit light is what we're looking at here. So, all right. Well, I'm gonna move us into another direction, and because Josh is not here, we're not gonna play a game.
No games.
And instead, what I want us to do, and we'll talk about the sermon in just a little bit, but we kind of talked about fear this week, and I was just kind of wondering.
What were you wondering?
Thank you,
Michael?
Tate. I was wondering, do you guys have any moments or significant memories of your life where you remember being afraid? So I'm talking about, like, do you have a story of maybe when you were little or maybe last week when you were really afraid?
Yeah, I think this was probably the time in my life where I was most afraid. If I would rank them, I think. And Michael, you'll actually know this story. You were a part of why I was so scared.
Oh, man, I think
you
I
know where I'm
we're
going?
Yeah. Is it camp?
Oh,
We're
yeah.
going camp.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
So Camp Cumberland, the camp that I grew up at, the camp that Michael grew up at, and then staffed at for a long time. How many years?
Five years.
Yeah. I remember one time when I was there, and I was probably too young to be there. My dad was a counselor, so I was, younger than the age actually that you were supposed to be going there. But I kind of went with my dad, and they would do this thing every year until it ended. I don't know why it ended.
I'm pretty sure it ended this year.
Probably did.
What you're
Probably
about to
did.
say.
But where the counselors would just prank all the kids and just freak them out. So I remember they were like, it was like late at night, and they were like, "Hey guys, there's something in the woods. Like we gotta see what it is." And there was all this noise coming from like deep in the woods. So we would kind of like stand on this hill and like look at it, and we couldn't see anything. We were looking down. We could just hear all this stuff. And eventually we made our way down there. A big group of us made our way down there, and something happened, and we all ran back up and got in a cabin. And we were locking ourselves in a cabin, and just on all the walls was just banging and scratching and animal sounds. It sounded like. And keep in mind, I was too young to be there. Everyone was kind of, not everybody was scared.
I think you were probably around 7 or 8.
Yeah. So, what, Ruben's age?
Yeah, so you were Ruben's age.
Can you imagine doing that to Ruben right
No,
now?
I would like hurt myself.
So I remember, there were a few people kind of laughing, a few people that weren't super scared. My dad was kind of laughing, and he looked at me, and I was just bawling. I was crying. And then everyone was like, okay, here in a minute, when the noise stops, we're gonna make a break and we're gonna run. We're gonna run to this other building. And I was terrified. I did not want to run, but eventually they opened the door. We all ran, and somebody ended up grabbing me and picking me up. But I just remember at the end of that, we found out it was the counselors. It wasn't that big a deal, but I literally cried like all night long. I was scared to death. So, do you remember that, Mike?
I do remember that. Yeah, that was not a Michael executive decision. I was just a staffer there, and I remember that night and a couple particular others, because that kind of happened through the summer of us just kind of look around and being like, I think this is probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
I think it's probably went too far. But yeah, I remember that. Ironically, I remember the time that I was scared the most, and it was also as a kid. It was on a Sunday night, and my parents never drove to church together for a couple reasons. My mom played piano, so she was there early, and my dad was a deacon, so a lot of times he would be at church late. And on this particular Sunday night, we didn't have a deacon's meeting, and so we decided that we were going to go out to eat to this place called Jolton Pizza, which was just an iconic place in Jolton, Tennessee. It closed down. And we're there, and this pizza restaurant had a room to the side of it that was an arcade room. And then outside of the arcade room, we're about to go way back in history. They had a tattoo machine. Do you guys remember the tattoo machines? Like you'd put like 3 quarters in.
one?
Oh, yeah.
Put 3 quarters in and push, and it'd spit out like a random tattoo. So this arcade was like a quarter arcade machine, and I had already eaten pizza, and my parents are there. They were there with a bunch of church people just talking, and I don't know how long I was in that arcade. I know that I spent all the money that I had, and when I turned around to walk out of the arcade room, the entire restaurant was pitch black. I walked outside. All the chairs were upside down onto the tables. There was no one there. The restaurant was closed, and I remember just sitting in the floor screaming and sobbing. And the guy who owned the restaurant was still back in the kitchen. His name was Steve Whitaker, and he came out. He picked me up. He knew my parents well, so he was able to call them. But it turned out to be one of those cases where mom thought dad had me, dad thought mom had me, and turns out nobody had me. So abandonment issues were put in Michael's heart
Immediately
at 7 or 8 years old. And so yeah, I can just remember being absolutely terrified in that moment.
Yeah. Well, this is an interesting story, and I don't. It's weirder thinking back on it because I don't think I was as scared of this whole situation in the moment as I am, or like it kind of gives me chills like thinking back on it now. But I am like fairly certain that the house that we moved into with like my family when we first came to Hopkinsville is like haunted. Or something. I don't know what like we're supposed to believe.
It's just a really big house.
I don't know what we're supposed to believe about like ghosts or demons or whatever it was, but there was something going on in there, and I'll try not to get too into the weeds of it because I could talk about it for hours. But I think when I was a kid, I had like a super active imagination, just like all the time, and I knew that about myself. So I'd be like walking around our house, and my brother and I, Tucker, shared a room. And right next to our room was our bathroom, and I would walk by the bathroom sometimes and like think that I saw something out of the corner of my eye, and it would kind of look like just like a tall like silhouette of like a woman, and so I would walk by and see that out of the corner of my eye, and in my little kid brain just be like, I'm just making that up because I make stuff up all the time. So like I had no reason to think that was anything to be worried about. Well, then I'm having a sleepover for my birthday party one year. And one of my friends comes into the living room. I've never brought this up to anyone before. And he goes, Tate, I just walked by your bathroom and saw like a tall like figure of a woman standing in the bathroom. And I was like, there is no way. And
that's my mom.
Like, yeah. So then I go a few years kind of just like, I don't even think I was that scared of that in the moment. But like I knew like, okay, that's crazy. And I think he and I talked about it for like a few weeks after, but we never got too into it. And then there was other like spooky stuff that I noticed, but once again, I kind of just wrote it all off, like, hearing things, seeing things. I was probably just making it up until years later, where my family's in the house that we're in now, and I'm just sitting on the couch having a conversation with my dad, and so I've got it's me and then my 3 brothers and my 1 sister, who at the time when we were living in that house was on the ground floor, and me and all my brothers lived upstairs. And Dad, we were just talking, and he was like, "Oh, there was definitely something going on in the house. I saw a 5th kid running around upstairs all the time.
Oh my God.
Like I saw like run past a corner, like behind a corner, just like a little shadow kid."
You guys are all just tired.
Maybe we were all
You
just
guys
exhausted.
just never talked about it. Like,
We just kept to ourselves. Like, I guess Dad thought the exact same thing. Like, no, I'm just making that up.
Such a Wells thing to do is to just be so like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's all literal.
Just part of
in the
life. It's
corner,
Pretty
but-
freaky. Oh, and then this is so funny. Trent and Tyson used to tell us, this is a conversation I just had with Trent and Tyson, my 2 youngest brothers. They said that like when they were living in that house, they would both have dreams of just like a giant void, just like in the house, just like a giant dark pit.
Yeah.
Never talk to each other about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, red dye 40 is real.
Yeah, it is.
Keep it away from your kids.
No caffeine, no red 40 for your kids.
No fun.
Yeah.
So.
I can't really like. I've literally sat here this entire time and tried to think of a time that I was like genuinely terrified. And
If you don't have one, that's fine. Let's just make it our mission in this room
Dude,
scare you.
scare Hannah this year.
that's
worse
fine.
than she's ever been.
Any
scared.
You can
listeners?
try. It's not like I won't get scared. I can get scared. But like when it comes to like haunted houses or like people jump scaring me or like playing a joke on me, I automatically assume that like someone's joking with me, or
Mhm.
I like immediately reassure myself it's not real, it's not real, it's not real. And then I do that enough to where I can just get through it.
What happens when one day it's real?
Well, then I'm just done for.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can ignore it for long enough. But I do know that I would have dreams. I'm a very, I dream a lot, and I dream really weird. And, in the mornings when I'm trying to wake up and my alarm is snoozing, I'll make up a dream about me snoozing my alarm. It's like, every time I snooze my
Yeah.
alarm, I get $15. So then I keep doing it. It's really weird. Anyways, but I would make a dream, or I would have dreams when I was little. And I just remember being terrified of, certain characters, like the Hamburger Helper hand. Absolutely not. For the longest time, I would not go down the pasta aisle with my mom because of the Hamburger Helper hand. Because in my
So
dream,
odd.
it came out of the sky and grabbed my car. My dad wasn't in there because he was on a work trip in my dream. But it was me, my mom, and my brother, and they grabbed the car and launched it, and we all passed away. and the Kool-Aid man, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that man,
That's a no-no.
he walked in my front door and killed my family. And that's, yeah. So the
All
Kool-Aid
right.
man and the Hamburger Helper hand is
I
just
did
not-
not think this question about
That's
things that we're afraid of was going to go here. So. Hey, let me just tell our audience this, because Hannah mentioned something and he's not here to defend himself, and you guys all know this is true about him. But there is one person in the office that loves to scare people, to jump out of a corner and yell, and it is Josh Hensley.
It literally
He
is.
has tried to scare me so many times, and I am so worried in that millisecond moment of what I'm going to say or do to Josh Hensley in that moment. So if you guys want to help us mess
He's
with
good
Josh,
at it.
He
You
is
wouldn't
good
think
at
it,
it,
but
man.
he
He,
does
gets
very
down on the
sneaky.
ground and he'll be looking up at you around the corner.
He's
It is wild. So, okay, well, let's jump in for a little bit and let's talk about the sermon on Sunday. So Sunday we talked about another family who was almost wrecked by fear, but God moved them from a place of fear into faith. And the family that we talked about was Abraham and Sarah. And we looked at their story. Their story covers a lot of the book of Genesis, from chapter 12 all the way to chapter 25. And we just tried to pull out some parts of their story where we could look and see that fear was present. And I told you guys 3 things on Sunday that I wanted to just teach us about fear. So let me cover those really quickly. Fear is always looking to control us. If you remember in the story, God told Abraham, go to the place that I will show you. And the place that God showed Abraham was a place called Canaan. So Abraham leaves from Haran. He goes to Canaan. And then the next thing that we're told in chapter 12, verse 10, is that there was a famine in the land. And out of fear, Abraham leaves where God told him to be, and he goes down to Egypt. Fear is always looking to control us. And then we talked about the fact that fear has compounding long-term consequences in our life. So if we're constantly making fearful choices, it's not just going to be a bad decision in that moment, but those decisions actually have the ability to compound into more and greater long-term consequences. And we saw that as we looked at Abraham and Sarai trying to figure out how are we going to have an heir, and Sarai brings up her own maidservant, Hagar, and says, Abraham, sleep with her, have a child through her. And it's interesting as you look back at the scriptures and you notice a detail in the scripture, it says that Hagar was an Egyptian servant. So that means that presumably, and every scholar agrees with this, that while Abraham and Sarah were in Egypt, being in a place that they shouldn't have been out of fear, they picked up Hagar. And we know how the story goes because we talked about it on Sunday, but Abraham does sleep with Hagar. There is a son born. His name is Ishmael, and nearly all of the conflict that has gone on for the last 4,000 years in the Middle East has been between the descendants of Ishmael, the firstborn son of Abraham, and Isaac, the secondborn son of Abraham, but the son of the heir of the promise. And so we ended up Sunday talking about this idea. It's 4 words, and I know it can be controversial. I hope you guys listened on Sunday. I hope you didn't feel attacked, but fear is a choice. We talked about how, God gives commands, and God only gives commands when there are choices to be made. And I know that in my own fear, anxiety, and worry journey, the moment that I realized, oh my goodness, this is a command to fear not, and that means that I am not helpless because God only gives a command when there is a choice to be made. So that's what we talked about on Sunday. We talked about a family that was almost wrecked by fear, and hopefully you left feeling encouraged and equipped through your week to know and have a game plan of what am I going to do the next time I feel afraid.
Yeah, Michael, I really like the third point, fear is a choice. I heard this a while back, and I really liked it. Fear is kind of like a check engine light, right? A check engine light, we all know what that looks like. We've all seen it probably in a vehicle. Some of y'all probably have it right now. But it pops up. We can't control when it pops up, right? It's just going to be there. We're going to get fearful sometimes, but we have a choice after that pops up.
Right.
We have a choice of what to do. Do we ignore it? Do we live in it? Do we just keep driving the car no matter what kind of noise it's making or whatever? Or do we take action and choose faith over fear?
Yeah.
So I really like that. But I liked the sermon a lot, talking all about fear, and it started to make me think about fearful decisions that I've made in my own life. But I want to ask, have you guys ever made a fear-based decision, and what did that look like for you?
I don't know about y'all, but when I am really overcome by fear and anxiety, it paralyzes me.
Yeah.
I will quickly get to a point where I just don't want to do anything. And literally, I'll just go and just lay in my bed for hours and hours because I'm just so afraid that it makes me feel like it's not worth doing anything else, I guess. Particularly when I was in college, I was going through some really bad bouts with anxiety, and I kind of just got to a point where I had convinced myself that it wasn't worth doing anything else. I just felt like all I could do is just go home and lay on the couch and watch YouTube videos until I fell asleep, and then if I got hungry, I would get up and go eat, and then just go back and lay on the couch.
It's paralyzing.
Yeah, and it got me to a point where I'm not focusing on anything. I'm not focusing on my relationships with people, and I'm especially not focusing on my relationship with the Lord and getting in His Word and looking at what He says about our fear, because I'm just so in my own head about everything, so overcome about whatever it was that I was worried about at the time, and it was a multitude of things, but I was not willing to relinquish that to Him. I was just so I just wanted to hold on to it and just sit with it.
Yeah. I know for me personally, fear and worry and anxiety in my life has always had a spiraling effect, right? It's not just a one time I'm going down a slide. No, it feels like I'm going down a circular slide and I'm just going faster and faster and faster.
Compounding thing.
Yes, it quickly gets to feeling out of control. And in those moments, I mean, we can make some really, really bad decisions when we're afraid. I can remember when Reuben was born. I feel like we probably took Reuben to the doctor more in the first year in his life than he's ever been right now. I mean, every single thing that, possibly, could have been wrong with him or wasn't normal about him, we were like, take him to the doctor, right? So we paid everybody's copay in the county for the year. And then, and here's the thing I think that is so interesting about fear. We have our second kid, Remy, and y'all, we don't rarely ever take her to the doctor, especially like when she was younger, because we had an experience and we learned, and it was almost as if our faith muscle grew that second time around. And so I don't think fearful experiences have to be bad. The scriptures talk about count it all joy when you encounter trials and temptations, because it's growing something in you. And so I think for us, for me personally, looking back, fear does grow our faith, but it grows our faith when we start doing the right things in the middle of our fear and not the wrong things in the middle of our fear. And it just gives us a touchstone to be able to look back and touch that and remember it and just move from it.
Absolutely. I was thinking a lot about Abraham and Sarai, who you talked about Sunday, Michael, and the whole kind of point was fear necessarily didn't wreck them, but it could have very easily. If they would have chosen in that first moment to live in their fear and not to go where God had called them, the entire story would have been so much different, right? And I think that is true for my life as well. I think specifically about coming here to Hopkinsville a few years ago, there was a lot of fear involved with it. It was a big change. It was, was moving away from where I was very comfortable and knew very well to somewhere that I had no idea what was in front of me. There were a lot of questions, a lot of fears, and fear could have overtaken me in that moment and made me choose something that was outside of God's will. And I just wonder, first of all, I'm glad that I didn't let fear control me in that situation. I wouldn't be where I'm at today without it. But I just wonder how many people have missed out on something in their life because of fear.
Yeah.
How many people have had God, lay out something, an opportunity or a situation that they could have stepped into, but fear stopped them. And how many times has the enemy, used the tactic of fear to stop somebody from doing something that God wants them to do? So.
Sometimes it's not even your fear either that will stop you from getting what God wants you to do. One of the most famous fear not passages in the Bible is Joshua 1:9. Be strong and courageous, remember I am with you. I think that is so interesting that God tells that to Joshua. Number one, he tells it to Joshua because Joshua is afraid. But then if you look back on Joshua's life, Joshua was part of the 12 spies that went and actually looked at the land. Yeah. And Joshua and Caleb are the only ones that come back and say, we can do this. The Lord is with us. Let's go. Yeah. But the Bible says that 10 other spies came back, and the report that they gave was filled with fear. And because 10 people were filled with fear instead of faith, it literally cost millions of people the promised land. And the only two that got to be a part of it were Joshua and Caleb. Yeah. So it's not just your fears that can hold you back, but I was going to talk about this on Sunday, but I just didn't have time. But y'all, fear is contagious. Yep. I don't know if you've ever been in a room where something's happening and somebody is being hysterical about something. very rarely does it just stay as one
Right,
person
right.
having hysteria. That
Yeah.
panic spreads like a fire. And I think that it is so important for us to guard our hearts and our minds with peace. And we can't do that if we're constantly being surrounded by things that are feeding our fears, right? I think specifically about people that watch the news all the time.
Oh my God.
And that's their only intake. They're the most fearful people ever. I think about people who, are somehow sucked into an algorithm on a social media platform, and all they're being fed all day long is fear.
Yep.
And you might not think that it's having an impact on you, but it is having an impact on you.
Yeah. And there's it's when you have a fear that's rooted in something, like a fear in public spaces, a fear in storms, or whatever your fear is in, and you are studying that and you're being poured into that and you're reading it up, and then you share that information with someone that is easily afraid. So, like, if I were to tell you, hey, did you know that you sneeze 100 and something miles per hour, and if you hold it in, your eyeballs are going to pop out of your head? Someone told me that once when I was like 5, and I've thought about it ever since, right? So,
me and Mandy Guffey had this conversation a couple months ago. We were talking about holding in a sneeze, and she was like, I know of somebody that blew out their carotid trying to hold in a sneeze. And
Yeah,
I'm
and
just
you've just been thinking about that ever since.
I have
You brought it
been.
up like
I mean,
10
I
I
times.
think
have.
that's probably why it was on the
Anytime
front of my
someone
mind.
Yeah, I have been. And like, I am so guilty of this, but I'll get to feeling maybe a little weird, a little bad.
You are.
And then I Google it, and then it's bad. It spirals.
As soon as Michael gets like one piece of medical information about himself, he's like, I have that. I
have
actually
it.
have had
I
a
have
heart
it.
attack yesterday.
That is me. Yeah, like right now, like I'm having like something go on really weird, like with my left hand. Like I can push on this place on my
told
elbow.
me about this yesterday.
Yeah, it's like bothering me, man. I can push on this place on my elbow, and like my 3 fingers, my middle finger, my ring finger, and my pinky finger, like I can just feel numbness shoot through all of them. So I know it's nerve, but there's this other part of me that's like, oh, your arm's going numb. You must be having a heart attack. You must be getting ready
Oh,
to
my
die. You know what I mean? And I know that's not true, but that is just how fear works in the mind of Michael. It is something that I am constantly having to tame and constantly having to say, be quiet. This is not you. This is not real. You're going to be fine. But fear is contagious.
Well, okay. How do we distinguish between a decision that was made in fear and one that was made from wisdom?
I think some of that might go back to the question that I asked on Sunday. It is completely possible for us to have a good idea
Yeah.
and make that good idea a decision. And at the same time, it is also possible that that good idea not be God's idea. And because it's not God's idea, it's now a bad idea.
Yeah, right.
But, there are times where I feel like the Lord calls us to do things and we are fearful in those decisions. So that's a great question. I mean, how do we determine between the fear of the Lord? I'm doing this for you, Lord, but I really don't know how it's going to work out, versus a paralyzing fear, like you talked about earlier, Tate. What do y'all think?
Well, there's been one really big decision that I had to make when it came to, like, is this a good idea or is this something that I'm actually supposed to do? That was when I joined the residency. And when I told my parents about it, my parents were not like, they weren't as expected. They weren't like, yes, you should do it. They kind of pushed me to wait on it and to wait on that decision. But I knew, and I was like, but I'm supposed to do it. And I know I have a car payment and I know I have these things to worry about, but like, I was very fearful, but I was also excited in anticipation. And that's not always the case. You're not always going to be anticipating the outcome. If you're also scared at the same time, it's possible. But I just feel like when you have a decision to make and you feel like God's telling you to do something and you are uncomfortable by it, that is most likely a decision that you need to make. A decision that could be a yes. If your yes would be uncomfortable for you, then say yes. And that's not the case all the time, but the residency, starting that would have been very uncomfortable for me. It would have meant I had to leave my cat at home. It would have meant that I would take a pay cut that I had been making at Lowe's. it would mean that I would have to I would have to make a lot of sacrifice. I'd probably have to go back to school. I'd have to do this. I'd have to do that. And doing that was uncomfortable for me, but doing that was the best decision I've ever could have made. Because I knew what God was telling me to do, and I knew that He was telling me that I was to be in ministry. And I knew that was the next best decision, even if I was uncomfortable.
Yeah. I think you bring up a good point, Hannah, when you just said, my parents encouraged me to wait. I think we rarely make decisions, wise decisions, just super quickly. I think
That's really good.
I think fearful decisions, we always make that decision quick. Fear makes us respond quickly, right? We get scared of something, so we immediately run, or we see something that frightens us, so we just immediately back off or get away from the situation, whatever it might be. But a decision made in wisdom, if it's what God wants you to do, there still might be fear involved. But I think a wise decision takes some patience. It takes waiting. It takes hearing from the Lord and talking to the Lord over a period of time, rather than just making a quick, fearful decision.
Yeah.
I think it is also possible when we're thinking about good, godly decisions that have fear in them. I think it's completely possible to have a little bit of fear with a mix of a peace that is from the Lord.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's unknown, but I am fully certain this is the right idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not that fear is erased, right? And we don't want fear to be erased, because if there is no fear, there is no opportunity for faith to be present. So I think that difference is, okay, is this a fearful decision where I have some peace about it? Or, Evan, I think you bring up a great point. Is this a fearful decision that I'm just making in panic? I mean,
Yeah.
I got to do this type deal. So
Yeah, and I feel like yesterday, when you said, is this a good idea, or is this something that God wants me to do? Literally, like 3 times since you've preached that sermon, I have said that to someone. The day later, whatever it was, like, I've said that, because I don't think we realize how many decisions we make. We're so uncertain, and we're like, well, I mean, it would be good, and like it's a good idea, and I'm like, okay, well, is it a good idea? Like, literally what you said.
yeah.
And that's made me think about a lot of things in my life. Is it just a good idea? Is it something that the Lord wants me to do? And I think that's something that we can just all really think about. So.
That's not original with me. I mean, that's straight out of Proverbs chapter 3,
Yeah.
verse 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Acknowledge Him. Lean not into your own understanding, and He will direct your path. So just asking Him, Lord, is this an idea? And I've noticed the people that do ask the Lord before they do something, it goes a lot different than those who don't. And I've noticed that's true for me personally. So. Okay, one more question, real quick, last one. What do you guys think could change in your life, in our family's life, in our workplaces, and in our church if we collectively decided to not live in fear?
I mean, I think even bigger. I think just as a nation, I think so much of the just horrific stuff that we see and the disunity we have, it's all somewhat related to fear.
We treat people differently.
Oh, absolutely.
And our world treats people differently because we are afraid of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to make the distinction. There's a difference between feeling afraid and living in fear.
Absolutely.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
I think for our church, and really just the church as a whole, like the body of believers, I think we'd see a lot more Christ out on the streets. Like, I think that one of the biggest reasons that people aren't sharing their faith with others who don't know the Lord isn't necessarily because we don't care. I think that all of us, and all of you listening right now, care about your faith, but I think that there's just so much fear attached to what is someone going to say to me? What if I get rejected sharing my faith with this person at my workplace? What if they think that I'm stupid for believing this?
So in other words, we would see a lot more bold Christians.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. I think the world could be a better place,
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely.
I think it could be. And if you're a listener, I think you are a huge part of making the world a better place. And maybe, just maybe, it begins with a decision to say, I will not be afraid. I will not live in fear. So this week was all about fear. Next week, we are back. We're going to be talking about wrecked yet renewed again. And Pastor Paxton is bringing the word. And we're going to look at somebody who was almost yet wrecked, yet renewed by desire. Desire is the word next week. Hey, we hope you have an amazing week. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Beyond Sunday podcast. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.